Sometimes the biggest secrets in our lives are hidden in the smallest places. For 12-year-old Kai Musk, that place was a dusty basement in Austin, Texas. What he found there would change his famous father forever. It started with a simple Saturday morning cleaning project. But when Kai discovered an old diary buried in his great-grandfather's toolbox, he had no idea he was about to uncover a family secret that had been hidden for over 50 years. The diary belonged to his grandmother, written when she was just 16 years old. Most of the entries seemed normal: school, friends, dreams of the future. But some pages had been torn out. And there was someone called Joshua who appeared throughout the pages, someone the family had never heard of. When Kai and his father, Elon, reached the final page of the diary, what they read there left the world's most famous engineer completely speechless. Those words would send them on a journey across 2 continents, searching for answers to questions they never knew they needed to ask. This is the story of how one old diary revealed the hidden truth about a family, a forgotten hero, and the real source of Elon Musk's mission to change the world. The Austin morning sun streamed through the dusty basement windows of Elon Musk's mansion as 12-year-old Kai wiped sweat from his forehead. It was Saturday, March 15th, 2025, and what had started as a simple weekend project had turned into a treasure hunt through decades of forgotten memories. "Dad, why do we have so many boxes?" Kai called out, moving another heavy cardboard container. Marked South Africa, 1970s, in his grandmother's neat handwriting. Elon looked up from across the basement, his hair messy and his SpaceX t-shirt covered in dust. "Your grandmother sent these from South Africa years ago. I kept meaning to go through them, but..." He shrugged with a tired smile. "You know how it is. Running companies, building rockets, trying to get to Mars." Kai laughed. His dad always joked about being too busy saving the world to organize his basement. But today felt different. Today, Elon seemed almost excited to dig through these old memories. "What's in this one?" Kai asked, pointing to a particularly old toolbox tucked behind a stack of photo albums. "I have no idea," Elon said, walking over. "That's been down here since we moved to Austin. I think it belonged to your great-grandfather." The toolbox was made of dark metal and felt heavy in Kai's hands. When he opened it, he expected to find old screwdrivers and wrenches. Instead, he found something much more interesting. Nestled between some rusty tools and faded papers was a small leather diary. The cover was brown and cracked, like an old baseball glove. The leather was so worn that it felt soft as silk under Kai's fingers. "Dad, look at this." Elon hurried over as Kai opened the diary's front cover. In careful, old-fashioned handwriting, someone had written, "Property of May Musk, age 16, Pretoria, South Africa, 1968. "That's your grandmother's diary," Elon said, softly, his voice full of surprise. "She was just a teenager when she wrote this." Kai looked at his father's face. Elon's eyes had gotten soft and a little sad, the way they did when he talked about his childhood in South Africa. "Can we read it?" Kai asked. Elon sat down on an old wooden crate and patted the spot next to him. "I think your grandmother would want us to." Kai opened to the first page. The handwriting was neat and careful, like someone who had practiced writing letters over and over. "January 1st, 1968, he read aloud. "Today I start my new diary. I got it for Christmas from my parents. I hope this year brings good things to our family. There's so much happening in the world right now." "What kind of things?" Kai asked. 1968 was a difficult time, Elon explained. There were problems with the government in South Africa. Some people were treated unfairly because of the color of their skin. They kept reading. May wrote about going to school, helping her mother with cooking, and dreaming about becoming a model someday. She wrote about her friends and her favorite subjects. But as they read more pages, Kai noticed something strange. "Dad, why are some pages missing?" Elon looked more carefully at the diary. Sure enough, several pages had been carefully torn out. The edges were smooth, as if someone had used a ruler to make clean cuts. "I don't know," Elon said, frowning. Maybe she made mistakes and started over? But Kai wasn't convinced. "Look at this," he said, pointing to an entry from March. "She writes about someone named Joshua, but she never says who he is." Elon read over his son's shoulder. "March 15th, 1968. Saw Joshua again today. He's teaching me so much about the world. I never knew how many people were suffering while I lived." My comfortable life. Joshua says knowledge brings responsibility. Who's Joshua? Kai asked. I have no idea, Elon said. Your grandmother never mentioned anyone named Joshua to me. They continued reading. May's entries about Joshua became more frequent and more mysterious. She wrote about meetings and helping people and making a difference, but she never explained what any of it meant. April 20th, 1968. Joshua and I went to the township today. I saw things that made me cry. Children who don't have enough food. Families living in tiny shacks. Joshua says we can't just feel sorry for people. We have to act. What's a township? Kai asked. In South Africa back then, the government made black people live in separate areas called townships. They were usually poor and crowded. That doesn't sound fair. It wasn't fair at all, Elon said. That's why some people fought against it. As they read more, May's entries became more serious and more secretive. She started using code words and abbreviations. She wrote about packages and safe houses and midnight runs. July 4th, 1968. Joshua says we're making history. I hope we're doing the right thing. Sometimes I get scared, but then I remember all the people we're helping. If something happens to us, I hope someone will understand why we did what we did. Kai felt his heart beating faster. Dad, this sounds like they were in some kind of danger. Elon nodded slowly. It does, but I don't understand what kind of danger. They reached the middle of the diary, where several more pages had been torn out. The remaining entries were even more mysterious. September 10th, 1968. Can't write much. Too dangerous. Joshua says the Watchers are getting closer. We have to be more careful, but we can't stop now. Too many people depend on us. October 30th, 1968. The network is growing. People all over the country are joining us. Joshua says this is bigger than we ever imagined. We're not just helping individuals anymore. We're part of something that could change everything. Kai looked at his father. What do you think they were doing? I think they were helping people who were being hurt by the unfair laws, Elon said. But I don't know how. They kept reading. The final entries were the most intense. December 1st, 1968. Joshua says we have to leave soon. It's not safe anymore. The police are asking questions. Some of our friends have been arrested. I'm scared, but I trust Joshua. He's never let me down. December 10th, 1968. Everything is ready. Joshua has found a way for us to get out of the country. I'm sad to leave my family, but I know we're doing something important. We're fighting for freedom. We're fighting for justice. Kai's hands were shaking as he turned to the second-to-last page. December 14th, 1968. Tomorrow is the big day. Joshua says this will change everything. I'm scared, but I believe we're fighting for what's right. If anyone finds this diary, please know that we did this for freedom. We did this for love. We did this because someone had to. Kai looked at his father. Dad, what do you think they did? Elon shook his head. I have no idea, but there's one more page. With trembling hands, Kai turned to the final page of the diary. What he read there made both him and his father go completely silent. The last entry was dated December 15th, 1968. But it wasn't just the date that shocked them. It was what May had written, words that would change everything Elon thought he knew about his family, his past, and himself. Elon's face went white as he read the final entry. His hands started shaking, and he carefully closed the diary. Dad, Kai asked, his voice full of worry. What did it say? You look like you've seen a ghost. But Elon couldn't answer. He just stared at the closed diary, his mind racing with questions that he wasn't sure he wanted answered. Elon sat frozen on the wooden crate, the diary clutched in his hands like it might explode. His face had gone from its normal color to pale white, and Kai had never seen his father look so shocked. Dad, Kai asked again, louder this time. What did the last page say? You're scaring me. Elon blinked and looked at his son. For a moment, he seemed confused, like he had forgotten where he was. Then he took a deep breath and carefully placed the diary on his lap. Kai, I need some time to think about this, Elon said quietly. Can you give me a few minutes alone? But Dad, what was written there? Why won't you tell me? Kai had seen his father handle all kinds of problems. When rockets exploded, Elon stayed calm. When people said mean things about Tesla, Elon just worked harder. When business deals went wrong, Elon found new solutions. But right now, Elon looked lost. It's complicated, Elon said, his voice barely above a whisper. I need to understand what this means before I can explain it to you. Kai felt frustrated and worried. Is it about Joshua? Did something terrible happen to him? I don't know. Son, that's what I need to figure out. Kai looked at his father's serious face. Usually, Elon was full of jokes and energy. He would talk about building cities on Mars or making cars that could fly. Even when he was working on difficult problems, he seemed excited about finding answers. Now he just looked sad and scared. Dad, whatever it says, it can't be that bad, right? It happened a long time ago. Elon reached over and put his hand on Kai's shoulder. You're probably right. But sometimes old secrets can still hurt people today. What kind of secrets? That's what I need to find out. Kai helped his father carry the remaining boxes upstairs, but the fun had gone out of their Saturday project. Elon kept looking at the diary like it was a puzzle he couldn't solve. That evening, Elon sat alone in his study with the door closed. The room was filled with models of rockets and electric cars, pictures of his children, and awards from his companies. But tonight, none of those things seemed important. He opened the diary again and read the final page one more time. The words were burned into his memory, but he hoped that reading them again might help him understand. Instead, they just made him more confused. Elon picked up his phone and searched for information about South Africa in 1968. He learned that it was a very difficult time in the country's history. The government had created laws called apartheid that separated people by skin color. Black people couldn't live in the same areas as white people. They couldn't go to the same schools or eat in the same restaurants. Many people fought against these unfair laws. Some protesters were arrested. Some were hurt. Some even disappeared. But Elon's mother was just a 16-year-old white girl from a middle-class family. What could she have been involved in that was so dangerous? And who was Joshua? Why had Elon never heard this name before? The more Elon thought about it, the more questions he had. He needed answers, but he wasn't sure where to find them. Finally, he picked up his phone and called his mother in New York. May lived in a beautiful apartment in Manhattan and usually loved talking to her son. It was late, but Elon knew she would be awake reading. Elon, May answered on the second ring. How wonderful to hear from you. How are the children? They're fine, Mom. But I need to ask you about something important. Of course, dear. What is it? I found something today while cleaning the basement. An old diary of yours from 1968. The phone went quiet. Elon could hear his mother breathing, but she didn't say anything. Mom, are you there? A diary. May's voice sounded different now. Nervous. I don't remember keeping a diary when I was young. It has your name written inside the cover, and it talks about someone named Joshua. Another long pause. Then May spoke very quietly. Elon, where exactly did you find this diary? In an old toolbox in the basement. Mom, who was Joshua? May started, then stopped. I can't talk about this over the phone. Elon was surprised. His mother usually loved sharing stories about her childhood. She had told him hundreds of tales about growing up in South Africa. Why was she being so secretive about this? Mom, is everything okay? You sound worried. Can you come see me? May asked. In New York? And bring the diary with you. Why can't you just tell me over the phone? Please, Elon, just come. But don't tell anyone else about the diary. Not yet. Mom, you're starting to scare me. What's going on? I'll explain everything when you get here. But promise me you won't show that diary to anyone else until we talk. I promise. But Mom, I have to go now. Call me when you book your flight. The phone went dead. Elon stared at it, feeling more confused than ever. His mother had sounded genuinely frightened. But why? What could be in a 57-year-old diary that would scare a 77-year-old woman? Elon walked to his window and looked out at the lights of Austin. Somewhere out there, people were working late at Tesla factories, building electric cars. Other people were at SpaceX, preparing rockets for the next mission to space. His companies were changing the world, just like he had always dreamed. But right now, all of that seemed less important than understanding what his 16-year-old mother had written in a diary over 50 years ago. The next morning, Kai found his father, packing a small suitcase in his bedroom. Where are you going? Kai asked. To New York to see your grandmother. Can I come? I want to hear about Joshua too. Elon shook his head. Not this time, son. I need to talk to her alone first. But Dad, I'm the one who found the diary. Don't. I deserve to know what's in it. Elon stopped packing and sat on his bed. Kai, Sometimes grown-ups have to deal with complicated things from their past. I promise I'll tell you everything when I understand it myself. When will that be? I don't know. Maybe a few days. Maybe longer. Kai felt disappointed and left out. Is it really that serious? Elon looked at his son with tired eyes. I hope not, Kai. I really hope not. As Elon finished packing, he thought about the last page of the diary one more time. The words that had shocked him so much were simple enough, but their meaning could change everything he thought he knew about his family. He just wasn't ready to face what that might mean. The next morning, Elon's private jet lifted off from Austin Bergstrom International Airport. As the Texas landscape grew smaller below him, Elon sat alone in the leather seat, holding his mother's diary like it was made of glass. He had read the final page at least 20 times during the night, but the words still didn't make sense to him. Each time he read them, he felt more confused and worried. The flight attendant offered him coffee, but Elon barely noticed. His mind was spinning with questions. How could his mother have kept such a huge secret for so many years? And what did it mean for his family now? During the 3-hour flight to New York, Elon opened the diary again. He read through his mother's entries more carefully this time, looking for clues he might have missed. In the March entries, May wrote about Joshua teaching her important lessons about fairness. In April, she mentioned going to places where people need help. By May, she was writing about secret meetings and dangerous work. But it was the summer entries that really caught Elon's attention. In July, May wrote, Joshua says the police are watching us. We have to be more careful about where we meet and what we say. In August, 3 of our friends were arrested yesterday. Joshua thinks someone might be telling the police about our activities. In September, we're not just helping individuals anymore. Joshua says we're part of something bigger, something that could change the whole country. Elon realized that his 16-year-old mother hadn't just been a teenager with a crush. She had been part of something serious and dangerous. When the plane landed at LaGuardia Airport, Elon took a taxi straight to his mother's apartment building on the Upper East Side. The doorman recognized him and waved him through to the elevator. May's apartment was on the 15th floor with a beautiful view of Central Park. Usually, Elon loved visiting his mother here. She would make his favorite tea and tell him funny stories about her modeling career. But when May opened the door today, she looked older than Elon remembered. Her face was pale, and she kept looking over his shoulder like she expected someone to be following him. Elon, she said, hugging him quickly. Come in. Did anyone see you come up? Just the doorman. Mom, what's going on? You're acting like we're in some kind of spy movie. May closed the door behind him and turned 3 different locks. Show me the diary, she said without answering his question. Elon handed her the worn leather book. When May saw it, her hands started shaking. She held it against her chest and closed her eyes. I thought I had destroyed this 50 years ago, she whispered. Why would you want to destroy it? May walked to her favorite armchair by the window and sat down heavily. This diary contains secrets that could still hurt people, Elon. What kind of secrets? Sit down, son. This is going to be difficult to explain. Elon sat on the couch across from his mother. She looked so small and fragile holding the diary. In 1968, I was just 16 years old, May began. But South Africa was a very different place then. The government had created laws that separated people by the color of their skin. Black people and white people couldn't live in the same neighborhoods, go to the same schools, or even be friends. I know about apartheid, Mom. We learned about it in school. But did you learn about the people who fought against it? The people who risked their lives to help others? Elon shook his head. Most white people just accepted the unfair laws. May continued. They didn't want to cause trouble. But some of us knew the laws were wrong. We knew we had to do something. Is that what you and Joshua were doing? Fighting the unfair laws? May nodded slowly. Joshua was one of the bravest people I ever met. He was a leader in the underground resistance movement. What's an underground resistance movement? A group of people who worked in secret to help those being hurt by the government. We helped black families stay together when the government tried to separate them. We helped people escape from prison. We hid people who were being hunted by the police. Elon felt amazed. His mother had been a hero when she was younger than Kai was now. That's incredible, Mom. You were so brave. I was also very young and very foolish, May said sadly. I didn't understand how dangerous it was. What happened to Joshua? May's face became even sadder. He was more than just a resistance leader. Elon. He was also. She stopped talking and looked out the window. He was also what? He was black. And in 1968 South Africa, it was not just illegal for a white girl and a black boy to work together. It was illegal for them to be friends. It was especially illegal for them to. She trailed off again. To what, Mom? May turned back to face her son, to fall in love. Elon felt his heart skip a beat. You and Joshua were in love. Joshua was the kindest, smartest, most caring person I had ever met. He taught me that all people deserve to be treated with respect, no matter what they look like. He showed me how to stand up for what's right, even when it's scary. What happened to him? May opened the diary and flipped through the pages. We knew we couldn't stay in South Africa. The police were getting closer to catching us. So we planned to escape together. Did you? We tried to. But May's voice broke. Joshua was killed in 1970. A car accident in Canada. Elon felt terrible for his mother. I'm so sorry, Mom. I was pregnant when he died, May said quietly. The words hit Elon like a physical blow. He stared at his mother, trying to understand what she was saying. Pregnant? With who? May looked directly into her son's eyes. With you, Elon. The room seemed to spin around Elon. That's impossible. Dad is my father. Elon Musk is my father. Errol is your father in every way that matters, May said firmly. He chose to marry me even though I was pregnant with another man's child. He chose to love you as his own son. He chose to give you his name and raise you with all the love in the world. But Joshua was your biological father, Elon. But he died before you were born. Elon felt like he couldn't breathe. Everything he thought he knew about himself had just changed. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I wanted to protect you. And because Errol is your real father. Biology doesn't make someone a parent. Love does. Elon stood up and walked to the window. He looked down at the people walking through Central Park, all of them going about their normal lives while his world had just been turned upside down. Does Dad know? Does Errol know? He's always known. And he's never treated you any differently because of it. What about Kimball and Tosca? Do they know? No. You're the only one besides Errol and me. Elon felt overwhelmed by this huge secret. He had spent his whole life thinking he knew who he was. Now he had to rebuild his understanding of himself. Tell me about Joshua, he said finally. Tell me about my biological father. May stood up slowly and walked to a small wooden box on her bookshelf. Her hands trembled as she opened it and pulled out a faded black and white photograph. This is the only picture I have of him, she said, handing it to Elon. The photograph showed a young black man in his early 20s. He was tall and had kind eyes that looked familiar. He was wearing a simple white shirt and standing next to what looked like an old car. He looks like me, Elon said softly. You have his eyes, May said, and his stubborn chin. Tell me about him. What was he like? May sat back down and smiled for the first time since Elon had arrived. Joshua was brilliant. He was studying engineering at the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. Even though the government made it very hard for black students to get a good education, he was at the top of his class. An engineer? Like me. Like you. He loved to build things and solve problems. He used to say that technology should help all people, not just the rich ones. Elon felt a strange connection to this man he had never met. What else? He was brave, but not in a reckless way. He thought carefully about every decision. He never put people in danger unless it was absolutely necessary. How did you meet him? May's eyes got a faraway look. I was volunteering at a community center in Soweto. Most white people never went to the townships, but I wanted to help teach children to read. That was dangerous, wasn't it? Very dangerous. White people weren't supposed to be in black areas, but I felt like I had to do something. I couldn't just sit in my comfortable house while other people suffered. And Joshua was there. He was teaching older children about science and math. The government schools for black children were terrible. They didn't have books or supplies. Joshua was trying to give them the education they deserved. Elon looked at the photograph again. What happened between you two? At first, we were just friends who cared about helping people. But Joshua was so smart and kind. He taught me things about the world that I had never learned in my white school. Like what? He taught me that skin color doesn't matter. He taught me that all people have the same dreams and hopes. He taught me that if you see something wrong happening, you have to try to fix it. And you fell in love. May nodded. It was impossible, but but it happened anyway. In 1968 South Africa, a white girl and a black boy couldn't even be seen talking together. But we found ways to meet in secret. That must have been scary, terrifying. If the police had caught us together, Joshua would have gone to prison for years. I might have been arrested too. But you kept seeing each other. We did more than that. Joshua introduced me to other people in the resistance movement. Soon, I was helping with their secret work. Elon thought about his mother as a 16-year-old girl, risking her life to help strangers. What kind of work? We helped people escape from the Bantustans, the poor areas where the government forced black people to live. We smuggled supplies to families who didn't have enough food. We hid people who were running from the police. How did you do all that without getting caught? Very carefully. We used code words when we talked. We met in different places each time. We never wrote down real names or addresses. But you wrote about it in your diary. May nodded. That was foolish of me. I was young and romantic. I thought I was recording history. Maybe you were. Maybe. But it was also dangerous. If the police had found that diary, what would have happened? Joshua and I would have been arrested. The people we were helping would have been arrested. Some of them might have been killed. Elon felt amazed by his mother's courage. So what happened? How did you escape? By late 1968, the police were getting very close to catching us. Some of our friends had been arrested. Joshua decided we had to leave the country. Together, that was the plan. Joshua had contacts in Canada who could help us disappear. Did you make it? May's face became sad again. We made it to Canada in early 1969. For a while, we were happy. We lived in a small apartment in Toronto. Joshua got a job as a mechanic while he tried to continue his engineering studies. That sounds wonderful. It was. For about a year, we had a normal life. We could walk down the street together without being afraid. We could go to movies and restaurants. We could plan for the future. What about me? When did you find out you were pregnant? In the summer of 1969. Joshua was so excited. He said our baby would grow up free, in a country where skin color didn't matter. Elon felt emotional thinking about the father he never knew being excited about his birth. But then what happened? May's voice became very quiet. In March 1970, Joshua was driving home from work. It was raining and the roads were slippery. His car went off the road and hit a tree. He died in the accident. Yes, 3 months before you were born. Elon felt a deep sadness for the man who had been his biological father. I'm so sorry, Mom. I was alone in a foreign country, pregnant, with no money and no family. I didn't know what to do. How did you survive? That's when I met Errol. He was working as an engineer in Toronto. We met at a coffee shop near the hospital where I was getting checkups for my pregnancy. What did you tell him? The truth. That I was pregnant and alone. That the father had died in an accident. And he didn't care. He said it didn't matter. He said that if I would let him, he would help me raise the baby as his own. Elon felt grateful to the man who had chosen to be his father. So you married him? In June 1970, a few weeks before you were born. Errol was at the hospital when you were born. He was the first person to hold you. Did he know about Joshua? About the resistance movement? I told him everything. He said the past didn't matter. Only the future mattered. And you moved back to South Africa when you were 2 years old. Errol wanted to go home, and I thought it would be safe by then. The police had stopped looking for me. Elon looked at the photograph of Joshua again. Do you think he would be proud of what I've done with my life? I think he would be amazed, May said with a smile. You're doing exactly what he always dreamed of, using technology to help make the world better. But I still don't understand something, Mom. What? What was written on the last page of the diary? What did I read that shocked me so much? May opened the diary to the final page. What did you think it said? Elon recited the words from memory. December 15th, 1968. Joshua and I leave for Canada tonight. I'm scared but excited. If something happens to me, I want people to know that Joshua Mandela was the bravest man I ever knew. And I want them to know that our love created something beautiful. Our baby will be born free. That's what you read. Yes, but that's not what shocked me. May looked confused. Then what did? Elon pointed to the bottom of the page. It's what you wrote underneath that. The part you added later in different ink. May looked at the diary more carefully. At the bottom of the page, in newer handwriting, someone had written, Joshua didn't die in 1970. I lied about the accident. He's still alive, and he doesn't know about his son. The room went completely silent. "Mom," Elon said slowly, "is my biological father still alive?" May stared at the diary page as if she was seeing it for the first time. Her face went pale, and her hands started shaking even more. "I don't remember writing that," she whispered. "Mom, what do you mean you don't remember? It's your handwriting. The first part is from 1968, but this bottom part." She traced the newer writing with her finger. "This looks like my handwriting from much later. Maybe the 1980s or 1990s. Elon felt his heart racing. "So you did write it?" "Joshua is alive." May closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Elon, I need to tell you something I've never told anyone. Not even Errol." "What?" "Joshua didn't die in a car accident in 1970. The words hit Elon like a punch to the stomach. "What happened to him?" "In March 1970, men came to our apartment in Toronto. They said they were from the South African government. They had been tracking us since we left the country." "What did they want?" "They wanted Joshua. They said he was a terrorist, and they were taking him back to South Africa for trial." Elon felt sick. "Did they arrest him?" "They tried to, but Joshua had been expecting this. He had an escape plan." "What kind of plan?" May stood up and walked to the window again. "Joshua had fake papers that said he was dead. A friend in the resistance movement had created them in case something like this happened. So he faked his own death." "Yes. The men who came for him found documents saying that Joshua Mandela had died in a car accident. They had a fake death certificate, fake hospital records, even a fake funeral notice from the newspaper. But where did he really go? I don't know. That was the point. The less I knew, the safer we both were." Elon sat down heavily on the couch. "So when you told me he died in a car accident, I was telling you what I told everyone, even myself, most of the time. But you knew he was alive." May turned back to face her son. "For the first few years, I hoped he was alive. But as time went on, I started to believe the story myself. It was easier to think he was dead than to wonder why he never contacted me. Maybe he tried to contact you, but couldn't find you. Maybe. Or maybe he thought it was safer for everyone if he stayed dead." Elon looked at the diary entry again. "When did you write this extra part?" "I think it was in 1995. You were 24 years old and had just started your first company. I was so proud of you, but I also felt guilty." "Guilty about what?" "About keeping such a big secret from you. About lying to your father, your biological father, about having a son. So you wrote it down but never did anything about it." May nodded sadly. "I kept meaning to try to find Joshua, to tell him about you. But I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared that he was really dead and I was just fooling myself. Scared that if he was alive and I found him, it would ruin the life I had built with Errol and your siblings. Scared that you would hate me for lying to you for so long." Elon felt overwhelmed by all these emotions. Anger, sadness, confusion, and hope were all mixed together in his chest. "Mom, I need some time to think about this. I understand. This is a lot to take in. Can I take the diary with me? I want to read it again more carefully." "Of course. It belongs to you now." Elon spent the night in a hotel room near his mother's apartment. He couldn't sleep, so he sat by the window reading the diary over and over. Every time he read about Joshua, he felt like he was learning about himself. Joshua loved engineering and wanted to use technology to help people. Just like Elon, Joshua was willing to take big risks for what he believed in. Just like Elon, Joshua dreamed of a better future for humanity. Just like Elon. The next morning, Elon called Errol in South Africa. It was afternoon there, and his adoptive father was in his workshop fixing an old radio. "Elon, what a wonderful surprise," Errol said. "How are you, son?" The word son made Elon's heart feel warm and sad at the same time. "Dad, I need to ask you something important." "Of course. What is it?" "Did you ever wonder what happened to Joshua, my biological father?" There was a pause. Then Errol said quietly, "Every day for 50 years. You think about him every day. I think about the man who helped create the son I love. I've always been grateful to him, even though I never met him." "Did you ever try to find him?" "Once. In the early 1980s, I hired a private detective to look for information about the car accident. But there was no record of it in any Canadian newspaper or police report." Elon felt excited. "So you suspected he might be alive?" "I hoped he was. But I also knew that if he was alive and hiding, trying to find him might put him in danger. What would you do if we found him now?" "I would thank him. Errol said without hesitation. I would thank him for giving me the best son a father could ask for. Elon felt tears in his eyes. Even though I'm not biologically yours. Elon, biology is just science. Being a father is about love, teaching, and being there through good times and bad times. You've been my son since the day you were born. Thank you, Dad. Why are you asking about this now? Because I found some new information. There's a chance Joshua might still be alive. Do you want to look for him? Elon thought about it for a long moment. Yes, I think I do. Then I'll help you. A man should know his whole story, even the complicated parts. After the call, Elon felt better. But he was still worried about one big question. How would he explain all of this to Kai and his other children? That afternoon, Elon flew back to Austin. When he walked into his house, Kai was waiting in the living room with his homework spread out on the coffee table. Dad, you're back. Did you find out about Joshua? Elon sat down next to his son. Yes, I did. And it's even more complicated than we thought. What do you mean? Joshua was fighting against unfair laws in South Africa. He and your grandmother had to escape to Canada to be safe. That's so cool. Were they like secret agents? Sort of. They were helping people who were being hurt by bad laws. What happened to Joshua? Elon chose his words carefully. He had to disappear to stay safe. Your grandmother thought he was dead for many years. But he's not dead. We don't know for sure. But there's a chance he might still be alive. Kai's eyes got wide. Really? Can we find him? Maybe. Would you want to meet him if we could find him? Yes. He sounds like a hero. Elon smiled at his son's excitement. He does sound like a hero. But Kai, you need to understand something important. What? Even if we find Joshua, Errol is still your grandfather. And Errol is still my real father. Family isn't just about biology. It's about love. I know, Dad. But it would still be cool to meet him. That evening, Elon sat in his study and made a decision. He was going to try to find Joshua Mandela. He didn't know if his biological father was still alive, but he had to try to find out. For the first time in his life, Elon was going to search for the man who had helped create him but had been forced to disappear before they could meet. 2 weeks later, Elon's plane touched down at OR Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg. He hadn't been back to South Africa in over 3 years, and the familiar smell of the African air brought back memories of his childhood. But this trip was different from his usual business visits. This time, he wasn't here to talk about Tesla factories or Starlink satellites. He was here to find traces of a man who had disappeared 55 years ago. Elon rented a car and drove north toward Pretoria, the city where his mother had grown up and where she had first met Joshua. The highways looked different than he remembered from his youth, with new buildings and shopping centers everywhere. As he drove, Elon thought about the research he had done before making this trip. He had spent days searching online for any information about Joshua Mandela. The name was common in South Africa, but he had found several references to a young resistance leader from the 1960s. But most of the information came from academic papers about the anti-apartheid movement. Joshua's name appeared in lists of missing activists and in interviews with other resistance members. But none of the sources had any recent information about him. Elon had also contacted Dr. Sarah Komu, a historian at the University of the Witwatersrand, who specialized in studying the resistance movement. She had agreed to meet with him, but warned that many records from that time period had been destroyed or hidden. Dr. Komu's office was in a modern building on the university campus. When Elon walked in, he saw walls covered with photographs, newspaper clippings, and maps from the apartheid era. Dr. Komu was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and gray hair. She stood up to shake Elon's hand. Mr. Musk, it's an honor to meet you. Your mother told me you were interested in learning about Joshua Mandela. You spoke to my mother? Yesterday. She called to tell me you were coming. She also told me why this research is important to you. Elon felt relieved that his mother had prepared the way. What can you tell me about Joshua? Dr. Komu opened a thick file folder on her desk. Joshua Mandela was one of the most effective young organizers in the resistance movement. He was only 22 years old, but he had already helped dozens of families escape from government persecution. She showed Elon a black and white photograph. It showed a group of young people standing together, and Elon recognized his mother. Immediately, she looked exactly like she had in the photo May had shown him. That's your mother, Dr. Komu said, pointing to the blonde teenager in the picture. And that's Joshua. Elon stared at the tall young man standing next to his mother. Joshua had intelligent eyes and a serious expression. He was wearing simple work clothes and had his arm around another young activist. He looked so young, Elon said. They all were. Most of the resistance workers were teenagers or people in their early 20s. They were brave, but they were also very inexperienced. What exactly did they do? Joshua organized safe houses for people fleeing government raids. He coordinated underground schools for black children who were denied proper education. He helped families stay together when the government tried to force them apart. Dr. Komu pulled out another document. This is a report written by Joshua in 1968. It's called Technology as a Tool for Freedom. Elon read the title page with amazement. He wrote about technology? Joshua believed that engineering and science could be used to solve social problems. He wrote about using radio communications to coordinate resistance activities. He designed hidden compartments in cars to smuggle supplies. He even had ideas about using early computers to organize information. That sounds like something I might write today. The similarity is remarkable, Dr. Komu agreed. Joshua was decades ahead of his time. He understood that technology could change the world if it was used to help people instead of just making money. Dr. Komu, do you think Joshua is still alive? The historian paused before answering. That's a complicated question. The official records say he died in Canada in 1970. But several other resistance leaders who fled the country also supposedly died in accidents around the same time. You think the accidents weren't really accidents? The South African government had agents in other countries during the 1970s. They sometimes eliminated people they saw as continuing threats to their power. So Joshua might have been murdered. Or he might have faked his death to protect himself and others. It was a common survival strategy among resistance leaders. Dr. Komu opened another file. But I have some interesting information for you. 3 months ago, I received an unusual letter. She handed Elon a typed page. A man in Canada wrote to me claiming to be Joshua Mandela. He said he had been hiding under a false name for over 50 years, but he wanted to tell his story before he died. Elon's heart started beating faster. Do you think he's telling the truth? The letter contains details about resistance operations that only someone who was actually there would know. Details that were never published in any history books. Where is this man now? He lives in a small town called Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory of Canada. He's been working as a mechanic under the name John MacDonald. Have you contacted him? I've been afraid to. If he really is Joshua, then contacting him might put him in danger. There are still people in South Africa who remember the resistance movement, and some of them might want revenge. Elon made a quick decision. I want to go to Canada. I need to meet this man. Are you sure? This could be very dangerous. Or it could be very disappointing if he's just a confused old man with false memories. I have to know. Can you give me his address? Dr. Komu wrote down the information on a piece of paper. His current name is John MacDonald. He lives at 47 Birch Street in Whitehorse. He works at McDonald's Auto Repair, which he named after his fake identity. How old would he be now? If he's really Joshua, he would be 78 years old. That evening, Elon sat in his hotel room in Johannesburg, looking at the address Dr. Komu had given him. Part of him was excited about the possibility of meeting his biological father, but part of him was also scared. What if this John MacDonald wasn't really Joshua? What if Joshua really was dead and Elon was about to disappoint himself with false hope? But what if John MacDonald really was Joshua Mandela? What would Elon say to the father he had never met? How do you introduce yourself to someone who doesn't even know you exist? Elon picked up his phone and called his adoptive father, Errol. Dad, I think I found him. Found who? Joshua, my biological father. There's a man in Canada who might be him. That's incredible news, son. How do you feel about it? Scared? Excited? Confused? I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel whatever you feel. There's no right or wrong way to handle something like this. What if he doesn't want to meet me? Then you'll deal with that when it happens. But Elon, what if he does want to meet you? What if he's been hoping for 50 years that someday he could know his son? I hadn't thought of it that way. A father never stops loving his child, even if he can't be with them. I know that's true for me, and I'm sure it would be true for Joshua too. The next morning, Elon booked a flight to Canada. He was going to find out once and for all whether his biological father was still alive. The flight from Johannesburg to Vancouver took 18 hours, with a stop in London. During the long journey, Elon couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what he would say if he actually found Joshua alive. "Hello, I'm your son," seemed too simple. For such a complicated situation. From Vancouver, Elon took a smaller plane to Whitehorse, the capital of Canada's Yukon Territory. As the plane descended over the wilderness, Elon saw endless forests and mountains covered with snow. It was one of the most remote places he had ever visited. Whitehorse was a small city with only about 25,000 people. The airport was tiny compared to the massive terminals Elon was used to, but the air was clean and fresh in the Rocky Mountains. In the distance were beautiful. Elon rented a car and drove through the quiet streets looking for Birch Street. Most of the houses were small and simple, built to survive the harsh Canadian winters. Many had large gardens and old pickup trucks in their driveways. He found number 47 easily. It was a small blue house with white trim and a neat front yard. An old red pickup truck was parked in the driveway, and Elon could see smoke coming from the chimney. For several minutes, Elon sat in his rental car, staring at the house. What if this was all a mistake? What if John McDonald was just a lonely old man who wanted attention? What if Joshua really was dead, and Elon was about to make a fool of himself? But he had come too far to turn back now. Elon walked up the front steps and knocked on the wooden door. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. After a moment, the door opened. Standing in front of him was an elderly black man with gray hair and kind eyes. He was tall and thin, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans. His face was weathered by years of outdoor work, but his eyes looked sharp and intelligent. "Can I help you?" the man asked in a voice with a slight South African accent. Elon stared at the man's face. Even though he was much older, there was something familiar about his features. The shape of his nose, the way he held his head, the intelligent look in his eyes. "Are you John McDonald?" Elon asked. The man studied Elon's face carefully. "Who's asking?" "My name is Elon Musk. I think you might have known my mother many years ago. Her name was May Haldeman, but now it's May Musk." The man's face changed completely. His eyes got wide, and he grabbed the doorframe to steady himself. "May," he whispered. "Little May from Pretoria?" "Yes, she's my mother." The man stared at Elon for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "You have her eyes, but you look like me when I was young." Elon felt his heart skip a beat. "Are you Joshua Mandela?" The man glanced around nervously, as if he was checking to see if anyone was watching. Then he nodded slowly. "I haven't used that name in 53 years. But yes, I'm Joshua." Elon felt like he might faint. His biological father was alive. He was standing right in front of him. "Can I come in?" Elon asked. Joshua looked at him for another moment, then stepped aside. "Of course. I think we have a lot to talk about." Joshua's house was small but comfortable. The living room had a fireplace, old furniture, and walls covered with newspaper clippings. Elon noticed that many of the articles were about space exploration and electric cars. Several were specifically about SpaceX and Tesla. "You've been following my work," Elon said. Joshua smiled sadly. "For 25 years, I've been reading every article I could find about you. I've watched every interview, every rocket launch, every Tesla announcement. You knew I was your son. I suspected. When I first saw your picture in a magazine in 2000, you looked so much like me at that age. And when I learned about your mother, I knew for certain." Elon sat down on an old couch. "Why didn't you ever contact me?" Joshua sat across from him in a worn armchair. "Because I was dead, remember? Joshua Mandela died in a car accident in 1970. But you could have found a way to reach out. I was too afraid. For 50 years, I've been terrified that if I contacted anyone from my old life, the South African government would find me. But apartheid ended decades ago. Old habits die hard, and there are still people who remember the resistance movement. Some of them might want revenge against people like me." Elon looked around the small house. "So you've been living here alone all this time?" "Not alone. I married a wonderful woman named Susan in 1975. She was a teacher here in Whitehorse. She knew about my past, but she didn't care. What happened to her? She died of cancer 5 years ago. We had 38 beautiful years together." "Did you have children with her?" Joshua shook his head. "We tried, but Susan couldn't have children. and I was always too afraid to adopt. I thought it might not be safe to bring children into my secret life. But you already had a child, Elon said. Softly. You had me. Joshua's eyes filled with tears. I know, and I've regretted every day that I wasn't part of your life. Tell me what happened. Why did you fake your death? Joshua stood up and walked to the window. In March 1970, South African agents found May and me in Toronto. They came to our apartment in the middle of the night. What did they want? They wanted to take me back to South Africa for trial. They said I was a terrorist and a murderer. Were you? Joshua turned back to face Elon. I never killed anyone, but I did help people escape from prison. I did smuggle supplies to banned political groups. By the government's definition, I suppose. I was a terrorist. How did you escape? I had prepared for this possibility. A friend in the resistance movement had created false documents saying that Joshua Mandela had died in a car accident. We even had fake hospital records and a fake death certificate. So when the agents came looking for you, they found proof that I was already dead. They had to give up the search. But what about my mother? What about me? Joshua's voice became very sad. That was the hardest part. I had to let May think I was really dead. If she knew I was alive, she might accidentally give away my location. She was pregnant with me when you disappeared. I know. I've thought about that every day for 54 years. I missed your birth, your first steps, your first words, your first day of school. I missed everything. She told me you would have been excited about having a baby. Excited? I was over the moon. We used to talk for hours about what kind of father I would be, what we would teach you, how we would raise you to be kind and smart and brave. Elon felt emotional hearing about the father he never knew planning for his birth. What did you do after you disappeared? I moved here to Whitehorse under the name John McDonald. I got a job as a mechanic, even though I had been studying engineering. I kept my head down and tried to build a quiet life. Did you ever think about trying to find me when I got older? Every day? But I was too scared. What if May had moved on with her life? What if you didn't want to know about a father who had abandoned you? You didn't abandon me. You were trying to protect me. Maybe. But the result was the same. You grew up without knowing your biological father. Elon looked at the newspaper, clippings on the walls. You've been proud of what I've accomplished. Joshua's face lit up. Proud? Elon, you've done things I could never have imagined. You're using technology to fight climate change with electric cars. You're working to make humans a spacefaring species. You're doing exactly what I always dreamed of, using engineering to make the world better. I get that passion from you. Maybe, but you get your determination from your mother. And I'm sure you learned practical skills from the man who raised you, Errol. He's been a wonderful father. I'm grateful to him every day for taking care of you and May when I couldn't. They talked for hours. Joshua told Elon about his work in the resistance movement, his years in hiding, and his quiet life. In Whitehorse, Elon told Joshua about his childhood, his companies, and his dreams for the future. As the sun began to set over the Yukon Mountains, Elon realized he had to ask the most important question. Joshua, would you like to meet your grandson? Joshua's face lit up like Christmas morning. I have a grandson, several grandchildren, actually. But Kai is the one who found Mom's diary. He's 12 years old, and he's been asking about you ever since we started this whole journey. What's he like? He's curious, just like you. He loves science and asks a million questions about everything. He wants to understand how things work and why the world is the way it is. Joshua smiled through his tears. He sounds wonderful. I would love to meet him. Are you sure you're ready for this? Once we bring you back into our lives, there's no going back to hiding. Joshua looked around his small house, at the newspaper clippings about Elon's achievements, at the empty chair where his wife Susan used to sit. I'm 78 years old, Elon. I have heart problems, and the doctors say I don't have many years left. I've spent 53 years hiding from ghosts. I think it's time to live like a real person again. What about the danger? What? If there are still people looking for you, then we'll deal with that if it happens. But I can't spend whatever time I have left being afraid. I want to know my family. Elon called his pilot and arranged for his private jet to fly to Whitehorse. While they waited for the plane to arrive, Joshua packed a small suitcase with his most important belongings. I don't have much, Joshua said, looking around the house. 50 years of hiding teaches you not to get attached to things. You have the most important thing, Elon said. You have family waiting for you. The flight from Whitehorse to Austin took most of the day, with a stop to refuel in Calgary. During the journey, Joshua marveled at the luxury of Elon's private jet. "I've never been on a plane this nice," he said, looking out the window at the clouds below. "It's not about the plane," Elon said. "It's about being able to get where you need to go quickly. Time is the most valuable thing we have." Spoken like a true engineer. "You definitely get that practical thinking from me." As they flew over the Rocky Mountains and then the Great Plains, Elon told Joshua about each of his children. He showed him photos on his phone and described their personalities and interests. "Kai is the most like you," Elon said. "He's always building things and asking questions about how to make the world better. I can't wait to meet him." When they landed in Austin, Kai was waiting at the airport with Elon's security team. Elon had called ahead to prepare his son for this meeting, but Kai was still nervous and excited. "Remember," Elon told Joshua as they walked toward the terminal, "Errol is still his grandfather. You're an addition to the family, not a replacement." "I understand. I'm just grateful for the chance to be part of his life." Kai spotted his father immediately and ran toward them. When he saw the elderly black man walking beside Elon, he slowed down and stared. "Kai," Elon said, "I want you to meet someone very special. This is Joshua." Kai looked up at the tall, kind-faced man who was his biological grandfather. "Are you really the Joshua from Grandma's diary?" "I am," Joshua said with a gentle smile. "And you must be my grandson, Kai." "This is so cool," Kai said, his nervousness disappearing. "I have so many questions. Did you really fight against the bad laws in South Africa? Did you help people escape from prison? Were you like a secret agent?" Joshua laughed. "Slow down, young man. We have plenty of time for all your questions. Do I really look like you? Dad says I have your eyes." Joshua knelt down, so he was at Kai's eye level. "You have intelligent eyes, just like your father. And you have the same curious expression I used to see in the mirror when I was your age." Over the next few days, Joshua stayed at Elon's house in Austin. It was the first time in over 50 years that he had been part of a real family. Kai spent hours talking with Joshua about the resistance movement, asking detailed questions about how they helped people and why they had to work in secret. Joshua told him stories about brave people who risked their lives to fight unfair laws. "We didn't think we were heroes," Joshua explained as they sat in Elon's backyard. "We just thought we were doing what was right." "But you were heroes," Kai said. "You helped people who couldn't help themselves. That's what your father does." "Now," Joshua said, looking at Elon, "he helps people with electric cars that don't hurt the environment. He's working to make humans a species that can live on other planets. He's still fighting for justice, just in a different way." Elon called his mother in New York and told her that Joshua was alive and staying with them. May's reaction was a mix of joy, shock, and old pain. "Put him on the phone," she said, crying. Elon handed the phone to Joshua. "Hello, May. I can't believe it's really you. I mourned you for 50 years. I know. I'm sorry I let you think I was dead. I thought it was the only way to keep you and Elon safe. Are you coming to see me? If you want me to. Of course I want you to. I never stopped loving you, Joshua." A week later, May flew to Austin. When she saw Joshua at the airport, she ran to him and hugged him tightly. Both of them were crying and laughing at the same time. "You look older," May said through her tears. "So do you," Joshua replied. "But you're still the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." That evening, 3 generations of the family sat around Elon's dining room table. Elon, May, Joshua, and Kai, along with Elon's other children who had flown in for this special occasion. "Tell us more about the resistance movement," one of Elon's daughters asked. Joshua told them about the underground schools where he taught black children who were denied proper education. He described the safe houses where families hid when the police were hunting them. He explained how they used radios and coded messages to coordinate their activities. "Technology was our secret weapon," Joshua said. "The government had more money and more guns, but we had better communication and smarter planning. Just like how Dad uses technology now," Kai observed. "Exactly like that," Joshua agreed, smiling at Elon. "Your father understands that technology should serve all people, not just the wealthy and powerful." After dinner, Elon, May, and Joshua sat on the back porch while the children played in the yard. "I have something I need to tell both of you," May said. "Something I should have said years ago." "What is it?" Elon asked. I called Errol yesterday and told him about Joshua. He wants to meet you. Joshua looked surprised. He wants to meet me? The man who raised my son. He said he's wanted to thank you for 50 years. He wants to thank you for giving him the best son a father could ask for. I'd like to meet him too, Joshua said. I owe him everything for taking care of you and Elon when I couldn't. 2 days later, Errol flew in from South Africa. When he met Joshua at Elon's house, the two men looked at each other for a long moment. Then Errol extended his hand. Thank you for giving me my son. Joshua shook his hand firmly. Thank you for raising him to be such a good man. We both did our part, Errol said. You gave him his curiosity and his desire to help people. I gave him his practical skills and his determination. Together, we created someone pretty special. That night, as the family gathered around the fireplace, Kai asked the question that everyone was thinking. What happens now? Are we all going to live together like one big family? Joshua looked at each family member before answering. I'm old, Kai. I don't have many years left. But whatever time I do have, I want to spend it with the people I love. So you're staying? Kai asked hopefully. If your father will have me, I'd like to spend my remaining years getting to know my family. Elon smiled. We'd love to have you stay, Joshua. We've got 54 years of catching up to do. As the fire crackled in the fireplace, for generations of the family sat together for the first time. May and Joshua held hands, remembering their young love from 57 years ago. Errol and Joshua talked quietly about engineering and raising children. Kai peppered his biological grandfather with questions about science and justice. And Elon sat in the middle of it all, finally understanding where his passion for using technology to help humanity had come from. He was the son of a resistance fighter who had dreamed of a better world, raised by a man who had taught him that love makes a family, and guided by a mother who had shown him that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they care about others. The diary had revealed more than just a family secret. It had revealed the source of everything Elon had become that we'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us what city or country you're in. It's amazing to think that this story about family connections is bringing people together from all around the world. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us reach more people who might enjoy these tales. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for many more interesting and inspiring stories like this one. Most importantly, please share this video with your friends and family. Stories like these remind us that everyone has a hidden history, that love can survive any distance, and that the courage to fight for what's right can echo through generations. By sharing these stories, we spread kindness and awareness about the connections that make us all human. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.